Hey there, amazing people. I'm thrilled to have you here today. Hello, YouTube friends. Join us as we unravel the mysteries surrounding Alexis of Russia. Alexei Mikhailovich, also known as Alexis, was Tsar of all Russia from 1645 until his death in 1676. He was the second Russian Tsar from the House of Romanov. He was the first Tsar to sign laws on his own authority, and his council passed the Sobornoye Ulozheniye of 1649, which strengthened the bonds between autocracy and the lower nobility. In religious matters, he sided closely with Patriarch Nikon during the schism in the Russian Orthodox Church, which saw unpopular liturgical reforms. While finding success in foreign affairs, his reign saw several wars with Iran, Poland, from whom left Bank Ukraine and Smolensk were annexed, and Sweden, as well as internal instabilities such as the Salt Riot in Moscow and the Cossack revolt of Stenka Razin in southern Russia. At the time of his death, Russia spanned almost 8.1 km. With the foundation laid, let's embark on a journey into early life and reign. Alexis was born in Moscow, to Tsar Michael and Eudoxia Streshneva. At the age of 16, he acceded to the throne after his father's death on 12 July 1645. In August, the Tsar's mother died, and following a pilgrimage to Sergiv Posad, he was crowned on 28 September in the Dormition Cathedral. He was committed to the care of his tutor Boris Morozov, a shrewd boyar open to Western ideas. Morozov pursued a peaceful foreign policy, securing a truce with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and carefully avoiding complications with the Ottoman Empire. His domestic policy aimed at limiting the privileges of foreign traders and abolishing useless and expensive court offices. On 17 January 1648, Morozov procured the marriage of the Tsar with Maria Miloslavskaya, himself marrying her sister Anna 10 days later. Both were daughters of Ilya Danilovich Miloslavsky. Alexis empowered Morozov to conduct reforms to reduce social tensions. However, his measure of tripling the tax burden arrears for the 2 years preceding 1648 was demanded caused heightened popular discontent. Morozov was regarded as a corrupt, self-seeking boyar and was accused of sorcery and witchcraft. In May 1648, Muscovites rose against his faction in the Salt Riot, and the young Tsar was compelled to dismiss them and exile Morozov to the Kirilo-Belozerski monastery. 4 months later, Morozov secretly returned to Moscow to regain some of his power. The popular discontent demonstrated by the riot was partially responsible for Alexis' 1649 issuance of a new legal code, the Sobornoye Ulozheniye. As we enter this new chapter, let's navigate the complexities of military reform and unravel its multifaceted nature. In 1648, using the experience of creating regiments of the foreign system during the reign of his father, Alexis began reforming the army. The main direction of the reform was the mass creation of new order regiments, reiters, soldiers, dragons, and hussars. These regiments formed the backbone of the new army of Tsar Alexis. To fulfill the reform goals, a large number of European military specialists were hired for service. This became possible because of the end of the 30 Years' War, which created a colossal surplus of military professionals in Europe. In this segment, we'll be unraveling the complexities of rebellions and exploring its multifaceted nature. Throughout his reign, Alexis faced rebellions across Russia. After resolving the 1648 Salt Riot, Alexis faced rebellions in 1650 in the cities of Pskov and Great Novgorod. Alexis put down the Novgorod rebellion quickly, but was unable to subdue Pskov, and was forced to promise the city amnesty in return for surrender. The Metropolitan Nikon distinguished himself at Great Novgorod and in 1651 became the Tsar's chief minister. By the years, Alexis's wars with Poland and Sweden had put an increasing strain on the Russian economy and public finances. In response, Alexis's government had begun minting large numbers of copper coins in 1654 to increase government revenue, but this led to a devaluation of the ruble and a severe financial crisis. As a result, angry Moscow residents revolted in the 1662 Copper Riot, which was put down violently. In 1669, The Cossacks along the Don in southern Russia erupted in rebellion. The rebellion was led by Stenka Razin, a disaffected Don Cossack who had captured the Russian terminus of Astrakhan. From 1670 to 1671, Razin seized multiple towns along the Volga River. The turning point in his campaign was his failed siege of Simbirsk in October 1670. Razin was finally captured on the Don in April 1671 and was drawn and quartered in Moscow. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting war against Safavid Iran and exploring its implications in greater detail. In 1651, Safavid troops attacked Russian fortifications in the North Caucasus. The main issue involved the expansion of a Russian garrison on the Koisu River, as well as the construction of several new fortresses, in particular the one built on the Iranian side of the Terek River. The successful Safavid offensive resulted in the destruction of the Russian fortress and its garrison being expelled. In 1653, Alexis, initially thinking about sending the Zaporozhian Cossacks, eventually decided to send an embassy to Persia for a peaceful settlement of the conflict. In August 1653, courtier Prince Ivan Oban of Rostov and steward Ivan Kaminin traveled from Astrakhan to Isfahan. Shah Abbas I agreed to settle the conflict, stating that the conflict was initiated without his consent. As we enter this new chapter, let's navigate the complexities of wars against Poland and Sweden and unravel its multifaceted nature. In 1653, the weakness and disorder of Poland, which had just emerged from the Khmelnytsky uprising, encouraged Alexis to attempt to annex parts of White Russia and Little Russia, modern-day Belarus and Ukraine. On 1 October 1653, a National Assembly met at Moscow to sanction the war and find the means of carrying it out, and in April 1654, the army was blessed by Nikon, who had been elected Patriarch in 1652. The campaign of 1654 was an uninterrupted triumph, and scores of towns, including the important fortress of Smolensk, fell into the hands of the Russians. Ukrainian hetman Bogdan Khmelnytsky appealed to Tsar Alexis for protection from the Poles, and the Treaty of Pereyaslav brought about Russian dominance of the Cossack hetmanate in left-bank Ukraine. In the summer of 1655, a sudden invasion by Charles X of Sweden briefly swept the Polish state out of existence, in what became known as the Deluge. The Russians, unopposed, quickly appropriated nearly everything that was not already occupied by the Swedes. When the Poles offered to negotiate, the whole Grand Duchy of Lithuania was the least of the demands made by Alexis. However, Alexis and the King of Sweden quarrelled over the apportionment of the spoils, and at the end of May 1656, with encouragement by the Habsburg Emperor and the other enemies of Sweden, Alexis declared war on Sweden. Great things were expected by Russia of the Swedish war, but nothing came of it. Dorpat was taken, but countless multitudes of men were lost in vain before Riga. In the meantime, Poland had so far recovered herself as to become a much more dangerous foe than Sweden, and, as it was impossible to wage war with both simultaneously, the Tsar resolved to rid himself of the Swedes first. In the Peace of Cardiff, July 1661, Russia retraced all her conquests. The Polish War dragged on for 6 years longer and was then concluded by the Truce of Andrasovo 11 February 1667, nominally for 13 years, which proved the most durable of treaties. According to the truce, Polotsk and Polish Livonia were restored to Poland, but the more important cities of Smolensk and Kiev remained in the hands of Russia together with the whole eastern bank of the Dnieper River. This truce was the achievement of Afanasy Ordyn-Nashokin, the first Russian chancellor and diplomat in the modern sense, who after the disgrace of Nikon became the Tsar's first minister until 1670, when he was superseded by the equally able Arteman Matveev, whose beneficent influence prevailed to the end of Alexis's reign. These territorial acquisitions allowed Alexis to call himself the Tsar of all the Russias and claim imperial rank. The new state seal was introduced in 1667, with 3 crowns above the eagle symbolizing Astrakhan, Kazan, and Siberia, while the sets of 3 columns at the borders symbolized Great, White, and Little Russia. According to the decree, the eagle holding the scepter and orb signified the most gracious sovereign, His Imperial Majesty, autocrat, and possessor. Get ready for an exciting part as we dive into response to English Civil War. When Charles I of England was beheaded by the parliamentarians under Oliver Cromwell in 1649, an outraged Alexis broke off diplomatic relations with England and accepted royalist refugees in Moscow. He also banned all English merchants from his country, notably members of the Muscovy Company, and provided financial assistance to the disconsolate widow of that glorious martyr, King Charles I. In the next phase, we'll be immersing ourselves in the realm of schism with the Old Believers and exploring its real-world applications. In 1653, Patriarch Nikon established a series of reforms that aimed to bring the practices of the Russian Orthodox Church into line with its Greek counterpart. Most notably, the Church began to mandate the use of 3 fingers instead of 2 in making the sign of the cross. This resulted in significant dissent among the Church community. Nevertheless, Alexis continued to support Nikon until 1658, when Nikon abandoned his post due to a personal insult, leaving the seat of the Patriarch vacant. In 1666, the Tsar convened the Great Moscow Synod, which was attended by Patriarch Macarius II Ibn al-Zazim and Patriarch Paisius of Alexandria, in order to address the problems caused by Nikon. The Synod agreed to formally depose Nikon, and also decided to excommunicate all who opposed the reforms of the Church. Those opponents broke away from the official Russian Orthodox Church to form the Old Believers movement. Across Russia, Old Believers were harshly persecuted. One such Old Believer was Avvakum, the leader of the Old Believers. Avvakum had his wife and children buried alive in front of him. He himself was just exiled. Several Old Believers fled to the monastery of Soloki, which had revolted in the Solovetsky monastery uprising. The monastery would be besieged for 7 years until 22 January 1676, which was a few days before Alexis's death on 8 February 1676. Let's now enter the realm of assessment and discover the fascinating stories it has to tell. According to the Encyclopaedia Britannica 11th edition, Alexis's letters were first published by Pyotr Bartinov in 1856. They have earned him a place in the history of Russian literature, as assessed by D. South. Mirsky. A few private letters and an instruction to his falconers is all we have of him, but it is sufficient for Sedi Platonov to proclaim him the most attractive of Russian monarchs. He acquired the moniker Tishashi, which means most quiet or most peaceful. He received this moniker through the ways he behaved would be kind and friendly, but the sounds created from instruments would provoke him. Certain aspects of Russian orthodoxy, not its most purely spiritual, but its aesthetic and worldly aspects, found in him their most complete expression. The essence of Alexis's personality is a certain spiritual Epicureanism, manifested in an optimistic Christian faith, in a profound but unfanatical attachment to the traditions and ritual of the Church, in a desire to see everyone round him happy and at peace, and in a highly developed capacity to extract a quiet and mellow enjoyment from all things. Now let's delve into the intricacies of personal description and explore its various aspects. In 1666, his Dr. Samuel Collins described Alexis, then aged 37, as having a sanguine complexion with light brown hair, his beard uncut. He is tall and fat, of a majestical deportment, severe in his anger, bountiful, charitable. Now let's shift our attention to title. The full title of Alexis in 1667 was. As we progress, let's shine a spotlight on family and children and examine its intricate interplay within our topic. Alexis's first marriage to Miloslavskaya was harmonious and felicitous. They had 13 children, 5 sons and 8 daughters in 21 years of marriage, and she died only weeks after her 13th childbirth. 4 sons survived her: Alexei, Fyodor, Semyon and Ivan, but within 6 months of her death 2 of these were dead. including Alexei, the 15-year-old heir to the throne. The couple's children were Dmitry Alexeyevich, Crown Prince, died in infancy; Evdokia Alexeyevna Marfa Alexeyevna, Alexei Alexeyevich, Crown Prince, died unwed, aged 15; Anna Alexeyevna, 23 January 8 May 1659, died in infancy; Sophia Alexeyevna, regent of Russia for her two younger brothers, never married; Ekaterina Alexeyevna Maria Alexeyevna Fyodor III succeeded his father as Tsar of Russia, died childless; Feodosia Alexeyevna Simeon Alexeyevich, died in infancy. Ivan V was co-ruler along with his younger half-brother Peter, father of Empress Anna Yevdokia Alexeyevna. Alexis remarried on 1 February 1671 to Natalia Kirillovna Nereshkina, 1 September 1651 for February 1694. She had been brought up in the house of Artem and Matveev, whose wife was the Scottish-descended Mary Hamilton. Their children were Peter I, later known as Peter the Great, Tsar and First Emperor of Russia; Natalia Alexeyevna Fyodora Alexeyevna. Get ready for an enlightening exploration as we dig into primary sources and understand its role in the broader context. Grigory Kotushkin's On Russia during the reign of Alexei Mikhailovich 1665 is a key source on domestic life of the Tsar and his court. Yuri Krasnich's treatises from the Urs are also very informative. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss an update from my channel.